I'd really like to stop dropping things on my feet now. Well, hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome to Thursday. It is December 22nd, and we draw ever and ever closer to that happy day, Christmas, which is, of course, on Sunday, which means we have got more Christmas Advent calendar for you guys. We're going to take a look at that in just a minute. We might have some guests coming on. I haven't heard from anybody. I, of course, am the Dungeon Delver, so who are they to refuse? And I hope you're having simply having a wonderful Christmas time is what I hope. But anyway, hello, Connect, Todd, greetings. I don't really have anything special going on. We talked and ranted a lot last night about this upcoming screw job from Wizards of the Coast, and we may talk about we may talk about that a little bit more if we have the guest that I extended an invite to come on. So we'll have to see. Wave of Mutilation, greetings. I would expect nothing less from you. But anyway, so we're just going to kind of hang out. We're not going to get too tied up in any formalities because it's the time of the year when, we move the tables to the side. We put away those ledgers and we break out the fiddles and the party foods at Fezziwigs, and we dance and we celebrate. So wherever you are, whether it's just a bracing drink of water all the way up to your favorite alcoholic libation or anything in between, I toast you. I have a little Guinness. I have a little chaser for it here. When I get the level of Guinness down to the appropriate amount. But Chris, greetings. Good to see you. Luther Pendragon, good to see you. Virtual Glass Clink, absolutely. So I'm just, we're hanging out. It's a good time. Just kind of kicking back right now. I got some, I think I showed you guys, I'm going to, let me see if I can find this here. Let me see if I can find this. All right, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna do a thing. I'll show you guys because it occurred to me like trying to show y'all the minis, like holding them up on the webcam is next to impossible. Stuff doesn't focus right. Maybe I can figure out like a good way to do that. I don't know. We'll go back to like having a camera that just points at a spot and I can put things on it that I want to show off. That's something I'm going to try and figure out. But I got some minis. Let me see. This is what I was talking about last night. Little free miniatures. And they're not a show sponsor, by the way. These guys are they're not a show sponsor. I just got some really cool minis from them and I want to share them off. Let's see. And I will show these to you guys here in just a second. I'm going to look them up on their website and then show you guys the images. So and they don't particularly pertain directly to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in any way. And that's something, by the by, I want to here. So this is the first one I got, but it's kind of Christmassy. I don't have any 3D printed to show off right now, Kennec. I don't really have any 3D printed minis, but this I will share. This is one of the pieces I got from Hassle Free. It's kind of Christmassy. She's kind of got a Christmas outfit going on. So there's that one. And that's Hassle Free's paint job. That's not my paint job. And let me see here. What's the next one? Lenore. Let's see. Now, this one is not painted. Again, this is just off the Hassle Free website. This lovely Lenore mini. I mean, you could go magic user, illusionist, thief, assassin, any number of things. And the next one is, and I kind of, this, if we're not on stream after I put this one up, you know what happened? Let's see. You know, I'm going to see if I can find this one. Okay. So this one is kind of painted. So I have this one, but she is disrobed. She is unclothed. So those are the three that I got from Hassle Free. And they sent me, in addition to that, like I said last night, where did it go? There it is. And where are the other ones at? I swear, if somebody came in here and got, no, there it is. I got candy. And I will do a mini review of these. I tell you what, in addition to the last Advent piece video, which will be on the 24th, it will be on Christmas Eve, I will do a mini review of the British candy, the Tango Poppin' Apple, or the Tango Apple flavor Poppin' candy, which, to go by the texture, I think this is like a Pop Rocks. And then this one, it looks like Smarties. Okay, so apparently in everywhere else in the world except the United States, a Smartie is like a quarter-sized M&M. Here in the United States, there are these little hard, these little hard, chalky but very tasty, like Sweet Tarts. So I have a pack that at a glance you might think were American Smartie, but they say fizzers. So I don't know if these actually fizz, but I'm looking forward to trying those out. And the last day of Advent, we'll try those out. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And by the way, anyone who stops by or has been stopping by recently, and that's something else I want to share with you guys. Hey, there's one of my guests knocking at the door. You know, I feel like this is one of those old school Christmas specials from the 50s or 60s. And I'm thinking one that was like sponsored by Chesterfield cigarettes. I'm not kidding you. But it was like Frank Sinatra just kind of puttering around the house, and guests would come in. They'd be like, "Who can that be at the front door? Let's go see." and it'd be Bing Crosby or Jerry Vale or somebody, why, it's my neighbor, Jerry Vale. Just completely artificial that Frank would have kitchen mitts on and be taking canapes out of the oven. But so that's kind of what this is. And I got T-shirted historian over there, a recent acquisition to the friend stack there on Twitter. So I'll bring him in here in just a minute and we'll talk about some stuff. But yeah, so I will give you guys a little taste test sample of the British candies that I got, and we'll see how those are with the last day of Advent calendar. But we've got today's Advent calendar, and we're on door number 22. What is behind door number 22? Well, first I've got to find it. I had it here just a minute ago. Wool East. Okay, so we're over here. We're all the way over here. Now, if you haven't been following along, I'm so sorry. You got 21 other episodes to watch. But if you haven't been following along, my wife got me this lovely dice advent calendar. It's an advent calendar with gaming dice that I'm very, very, very much in love with. Once they're all out, once we punched out all the dice, will go into my collection. They won't stay in this box, but they've been a lot of fun because there's a little Christmas jest behind each door. And I punched 22, but I haven't opened it yet. So I don't know what dice we're going to get. So I'm going to open it up. And we're going to see what we got. It says, "You can't eat that. It's for Christmas. Roll for willpower." And we have a very cool D10 here. And I'll show that to you guys. It's at a glance, it's like a cyberpunky kind of D10. Let me see here. Let me get over to the studio. And I kind of fixed the lighting situation there. You can see. Was that? No, it's trying to focus on my face. I'll hide back there. And then the D10. As I said, it's kind of is that sort of a science fiction-y looking D10 there? I can't quite tell. Put that up on the camera for you. So let's roll and see what we got. Once again, as we had before with percentile dice, I rolled a 10, but then this is a hundreds place die, so that was a 1. So, if we were playing like Vampire, that I guess would be a failure. If we were playing a storyteller game, that wouldn't be good. So we'll just put that back. And then the 23rd, of course, is tomorrow. I don't know, and I'm leaning away from there being a stream tomorrow, but you will get an Advent dice opening, just like you will there won't be a stream on Christmas Eve because that's on a Saturday when I wouldn't stream anyway. But I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow with that. So I think we've knocked down enough of that pint so far that we can do a little car bomb there. There we go. We've got it. That is tasty. That is tasty. Very, very, very tasty. So I'm going to slip the Santa hat off here because it doesn't sit well with the studio headphones, unfortunately. And we'll just put that right there and hopefully not dip it in the pint glass. I'm going to put my studio cans on, which I love these headphones, by the way. AKG wired headphones. I know everybody's into wireless these days, but let me tell you, these are some amazing headphones. AKG, if you're listening, this is an endorsement of your product. I like it. I like it a lot. So let's say hello to a guest. Guys, this is a blind draw. I could get him on and he could start screaming terrible things. I don't know. I don't think he's going to. But he wanted to come on and talk about what is happening with Wizards of the Coast's perfidy, their absolutely horrible actions that they've got on. And if you on Twitter circle, you might recognize this guy's name. So without any further ado, and with a big open heart, because it's the holidays, we're opening the Delver's Dungeon to guests. Here he comes, a wassailing t-shirted historian. Come in, t-shirted historian. Greetings, my friend.
Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. This is your t-shirted historian. It's good to see you.
And it's good to be seen by you. And so, what brings you by the dungeon tonight?
I thought I'd just come hang out with you for a little bit and talk a little bit of shop.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, I don't take shop from anybody, but that's just fine. Well, thanks for stopping by. This is a little off the beaten track format wise. Usually, you know, I've kind of got a thing that I do, but it's the holidays, and again, you know, it's the time for visits. It's the time for guests. So, what is your hot take on the OGL? You know, which the O stands for, oh my God, I can't believe you're treating us this way, and yet somehow I'm not surprised. Gaming license.
Well, there's been a lot of YouTube guys posting up stuff all day today, and I've kind of been following up with it. We've had the rules lawyer checking it out. We've had the OGGM checking it out. We've had my friend, my buddy, my co-host, Grim Jim, checking it out. And as far as we can tell, if you're an OSR OGL guy, you're probably going to be fine. It's not going to bother you. It's not going to impact you in any way, shape, or form. This is mostly just WotC flexing. And in some cases, the speculation is that this is Hasbro giving WotC more or less one last chance to either make them the profit that they were promised, or, you know, throw the brand in the ice cooler. And it wouldn't be the first time Hasbro's done that. I mean, they had G.I. Joe, they had Transformers, had all these other properties that they threw in the cooler, and they just sit on them until another time, and then they re-release it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this is, I think you hit on something important. I think WotC is in more trouble than individual creators are when it comes to Papa Hasbro. I think tomorrow Hasbro would have no compunction about saying Wizards of the Coast is just an impressum. We just slap Wizards of the Coast on things that we want to say Wizards of the Coast and just push it out the door. So the rest of you cats, you're gone, you're done. We own that, and we slap it on role-playing game products and Magic, and that stuff is just designed by, you know, with an AI boosted staff of game designers.
Well, looking at Hasbro stock today, it hasn't changed anything from yesterday, but over the last 5 days, it's down. For the last 6 months, it's even more down. And over the last year, it's 44.47% down.
I think a good tell. Now, I don't have a mind for money, and if I did, I wouldn't encourage people to super chat so often. But I will say that I think the tell is going to be in Q1 when we see how they've done in Q4, because Hasbro's the biggest toy maker, and if they were off sales at Christmas time, there's going to be some red Slurpee spilled in the halls at all of their divisions. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely. And the thing is, it's like, okay, they had a license to print money with Magic the Gathering and to some extent Dungeons and Dragons. And the fact that they have overproduced too many sets this year alone has really, really hurt their player base. It's pissed them off. They're not buying the stuff. It's sitting on shelves. It's not moving. D&D books are not moving because the last few releases have been garbage. I mean, come on. Aren't you just excited to play Radiant Citadel?
Yeah, right. And I think
the abortion that was Planescape is coming up. And of course, the Spelljammer was a big flop for them. It was an embarrassment because of the Hadozi problem. Dragonlance also managed to fall kind of flat, except for the diehard enthusiasts who are old school fans from the 80s. So What do they got? You know?
Well, I had Ty Beard on, and the troubles with Dragonlance started 18 months ago when they went after Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss, hammer and tongs. How do you do that? How do you screw up like that? And I wish I could say that it surprised me, but in the environment we're in these days, it doesn't genuinely. And I feel like, though, that they burned a lot of goodwill going after them like that. Now, they all kissed and made up. But when I had Ty Beard on, we actually went through I sent him a copy of the filing because it's public information. This wasn't, I received this from a source on the dark web or anything. This is public information regarding a lawsuit. Anybody can get it regarding anything unless a judge seals it. And he certainly wasn't going to do it for, a game made, or rather a story made to sell games and toys. And, we went over it, and he was at the conclusion that this was literally, like, the minute this was filed, there were probably Hasbro legal people leaning very heavily on Wizards of the Coast legal people saying, make this go away right now, fix this. And I can't help but wonder if the same thing is not going to happen when the rumblings kind of start to reach Hasbro's ears. Now, I've never been shy about the fact that we're an old school tabletop gaming channel around here, right? I'd rather spend 5 hours going over a TSR Your Gateway to Adventure catalog than 5 minutes talking about Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, or whatever that book that came out recently was. But with that said, and I've mentioned this before, I play tested 5e. Okay. I thought 5e was an absolutely decent fantasy role-playing game. It was not the handful of sand in my gears like 4th edition and a lot of 3rd edition was. And I played a lot of 3rd edition, and I played a lot of 3.5. So my heart really goes out to people that were pinning their kind of cottage industry hopes on doing stuff and continuing to do stuff with 5e, because while Wizards of the Coast might not give a damn about us over here in this corner of the pool just hanging out by one of the water jets, there are companies, whether they're kitchen sink or the guys who make $700,001 that are going to be targeted by Wizards of the Coast. I really feel for them. So this is kind of a negative watershed moment for them. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, I had the pleasure of talking to RPG Pundit, one of the guys who actually worked on 5th edition. And as he was kind of flummoxed about it as well. I mean, he thought, he said that when they invented this system, they fully meant for people to take it and modify it and homebrew with it and make it their own and just kind of do their own thing with it. That apparently hasn't happened very much. And it seems like the new player base is very content to run either rules as written if they've bothered to read the rules at all. A lot of them are very heavily dependent on D&D Beyond. In fact, I have played 3 different campaigns at 3 different tables with 3 different DMs, 3 different groupings of players. And even though I have a full set of the D&D 5e rules, I never needed to use them because they were all running the D&D Beyond app. So all the DM's books were available to me through the app. And I just used the app to really quickly create a character and manage my character through all 3 campaigns. And unfortunately, I think Wizards of the Coast has kind of seen D&D Beyond as their model for how they should be doing their business. Because if you're not familiar with D&D Beyond, you can sign on to their online service, and you have like 5 character slots that you can build characters in. You have complete access to the core rule book, and that's about it. Let's say you wanted to make an orc. Well, orcs are not in the base book. They are in, Mordenkainen's whatever it is now, or at that time it was Volo's, right? So you had to have access to those books in order to get it. If you didn't have it, you had to pay D&D Beyond a premium price to either have that book added to your collection so you could access that information, or you could take the cheaper route and pay like 99 cents, $2.99 to have the orc race listed in your character options. And that's where the micro monetization of D&D really started, in my opinion, because once Wizards of the Coast got the scent of that, they were fully on that train. And that's how D&D 1 is going to be. They're going to offer you, a smattering of D&D races to start with. But as they bring out more source books with new classes, new races, new feats, and all these other things, you will have to pay either to get the partial books, to get the little bits of information you need, like 99 cents a feat or something, or 99 cents for a race, or $15 to get the entire book added to your account to be able to use it. And I dread the day, because it's coming. If it manages to make it this far, I dread the day that they acquire Hero Forge, because then that's going to do is they're already talking about letting you build, your perfect miniature to use on their virtual tabletop system. If they acquire a company like Hero Forge, that will allow them to push the envelope even further, because now you'll be able to download STL files to either 3D print them at your home, or use their service to print out your own custom miniatures with their own color plastics and everything else. And that's going to be further monetization on your part.
Well, by itself, I think Hero Forge is a fine thing. I built a custom mini for a beloved NPC just the other night, $7 for the STL, and printed it out in resin. I would dare say that they might nuke the STL end of it and just say, no, if you're going to buy them, you're going to buy them all from us. I mean, if I want orcs, trust me, I have plenty of orc miniatures. But if I want, if I want orcs plural, $7.99 for one of them, and then I literally print all day and all night until I have 30 to 300, which I think is the number appearing in the monster manual. I'd have to go back and look. It may be 20 to 200, but I could very much see them saying, no, if you want them, just buy them from us. We're not offering STLs anymore. So I really genuinely hope they don't acquire Hero Forge. But I have a sinking feeling that you're right, that could be something that could happen.
I think it's going to get worse. I have put this notion out there. I've mentioned it on my own program. People are, their blood was chilled when they heard this. But consider this. Because everything is going to be done digitally, GMs, DMs, whatever you want to call them, are probably going to start getting rated in some ways by the players, or there will be feedback, or there will at the very least be a complaint area for players about certain DMs and certain games. Since it's all going to be digital, it'll all get back to Wizards of the Coast. And what you're going to find is that there will be a form of a digital credit score on D&D 1. And if you don't think it's going to happen, it's already happening. I mean, Twitter is already a form of digital credit score for a lot of people. If you do remember the incident where a player got up onto Twitter, complained that the DM would not let her play a Vistani because it was not appropriate for his campaign, or in his campaign it would have been viewed unfavorably, right?
I did not hear about this, but I'm fascinated, so please go on.
Yeah. A player got up on Twitter and complained that a DM would not let her use a Vistani, which is a kind of like an analog for a gypsy, because they would not be trusted in that in that civilization or whatever that the GM was running. She got angry. She posted up an angry tweet about it. She got all of her followers, and they effectively, banned or outcast that DM for doing it. As far as Twitter goes, they tried to get him canceled.
That's terrible, man. That's just terrible. I mean, that's only like. I'll tell you an incident, and I mentioned this the other night when I was talking about monetization in computer games. A few years ago, a friend asked me to play MechWarrior Online, which is free to play mech sim, and we got into a situation where we were winning, we were pushing towards our goal, and suddenly we just had artillery raining on us. Well, the base game does not. You can't have a vehicle that just has artillery or airstrikes or any kind of support material. How you get it is you pay for it. And we were in the middle of winning the match, and suddenly we were just devastated by this rain of artillery. And the guy that I was playing with said, and I quote, "They're throwing credit cards at us."
Mm-hmm.
How many dungeon masters in the future are going to face that? It's like you're playing whatever the 5th edition or 6th edition, and let's be perfectly clear, it's 6th edition, right?
It is.
Dungeon masters are going to be playing the equivalent of Against the Giants or Tomb of Horrors, and you got your players on their back foot, and instead of thinking and playing and doing and playing smarter, you just have a bunch of people break out their credit cards or start clicking on their PayPal links and are like, "No, I just bought a resurrection for myself. I just bought a better saving throw. I just bought more armor. I just bought a healing potion. I just bought 100 NPC followers to help us deal with this." And if this battlefield becomes as digital as Wizards of the Coast seems to want it to keep Papa Hasbro happy, the DM's not going to have any say if it's all being played through D&D Beyond. They're not going to be it. I'm an AD&D DM, right? If you come into my game and you're like, "I have Unearthed Arcana and I want to run a barbarian," it's my prerogative to say no. You're not running a barbarian. You're not running a drow. You're not running a cavalier. I'm sorry that you feel that way. There's the door if you don't like it. Otherwise, we can play this way. But now, as you say, and with a case of this DM, you can simply click a button that says, John Smith is I paid for this. You have to allow it. Mm-hmm. And if the canvas is entirely digital, if the battle mat is entirely digital, those players can ignore you. Stop doing that. No, your player was, I hit you for 40 points of damage. You're at -8 and bleeding out. No.
And I would also manage to bet that X card materials will also be preloaded into these games as well. So the instant you do something that anybody objects to, it's like, bam, your game session is either on hold or you have X cards. Or if you refuse, they'll go complaining to Wizards and you will get your comeuppance.
And if you're, and in a digital sense, now I want to be completely upfront. Look, there's things that bother people. I don't want to get too far off on the X card topic. I really don't. There are things that bother people. I get it. You work that out on your own at your table. But when it becomes weaponized, and I think this can happen in real life, you're playing your game, you're playing Tomb of Horrors, and, Bob picks up the wishing gem and says, "Oh, I wish we could defeat a Sararak." And you know what happens with the wishing gem in the Tomb of Horrors, right?
Yeah.
Well, if Bob is now pissed off and he goes to the head of the convention and says, "That guy was talking about these things," and there, he used the R word, and he, the SEXUAL assault is in his game, and suddenly you've got 4 game marshals coming to your table, your game screeches to a halt while you try to untangle this.
Mm-hmm.
In a digital sense, it's going to be completely without context. I'm leaving this game, and here's why. And then all of a sudden, you're booted off, and you have to start an appeals process. And we know about appeals processes to try to get accounts back on social media. Now imagine you're trying to do that on D&D Beyond. Your game is scuppered, and even if you get it back, how many players are going to come back after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when they cycle through your appeal and figure out that it was one disgruntled person?
Exactly. I mean, it's not like if you have a problem on Facebook or anything like that, usually it's a bot that gets you. Same goes for Twitter. So I'm sure the same thing will be handled this way.
I said this was the funniest damn thing. I used to dual stream because I have several friends on Facebook, and I miss streaming to them. I wish, but the reason I stopped streaming on Facebook, it has nothing to do with the Zuck. It has nothing to do with any of that. So I don't know if you're familiar with the streams. I'll rattle on for hours if you don't tell me to shut up and go to bed. I got a message on Facebook. This was months ago, and I've told my viewers about this. I got a message from Facebook that said, "Hey, we've taken your video down for review because at this timestamp to this timestamp, you have copyrighted music, and we can't stream. You're using somebody else's music." Well, this timestamp to that timestamp was 1 second long. And it was like 2 hours. It was like an hour and 42 minutes into my video. I don't play music in my videos ever. I don't show clips ever. Literally, it heard something that I said. Maybe it heard my mic stand twang when I moved it, and decided that 1 second of that was identical to a piece of copyrighted music. And so I filled out a form, and I said, "What was it? Tell me what piece of music it was. Tell me what to do to fix it so that video can go back up." That was almost 2 years ago, and no, not quite that long, but it was at least a year ago. I've heard nothing, so I don't stream there anymore. No response at all. So you imagine in the case of D&D Next, D&D Beyond, D&D Digital, whatever, a bot with no context says, "Oh, I heard you use the word kill 10 times in a row and no save, and death 5 times in a row. Your game's not up to our standards. You're suspended."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is where we're going with a monitoring system and microtransactions. And the microtransactions part really pisses me off more than that, because you're going to have people complaining to Wizards saying, "I spent good money so that my character would not have to go through this, and that DM is making it happen. You do something about him," and it's going to happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's going to get ugly. I mean, it's like, people are already talking about they have a DM shortage for D&D 5th edition, and I'm like, well, look at all the restrictions and limitations and rules that you put on a DM. I mean, a DM has to abide by what a player wants, including their choice of race, including not bothering them about with their pronouns or fulfilling their X card or whatever else. And on top of that, apparently you have to be a psychiatric counselor and a storyteller, and you have to do everything that they tell you to do. I mean, it's like, who would want to do that? I mean, I think the worst experience I've ever had at a table that wasn't my own recently was went to a guy's table because he needed a GM, and I volunteered. Nice place, nice guy. 2 sessions in, he tells me, well, the DM is just here to do what we want him to do, or what we want to do. And at that point, I thought, okay. So my job is just to sit here and run a wish fulfillment game. Is that it? I mean, where is that written in the rule book?
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I had a couple of friends explain to me. Some of them nicer than the others, but ultimately the DM is a player too. We're not just guys who sit there and read rules out of the books. We're players too. We're allowed to have fun too. And this goes back to something that I posted. I tried my best to post this on Twitter. It's a little difficult because it's like over 1,500 words. And that is why adversarial dungeon masters are good dungeon masters. Look, briefly, it's easy for me to kill your characters. It's regardless of the game. Call of Cthulhu, it's very easy. Twilight 2000, Ghostbusters, Aliens, Hero System, Dungeons and Dragons, you name it. Offing your character is an exceptionally easy thing for me to do. As one of my longtime gamer friends from back in the day and I used to say, there is no problem players can present me with that I cannot throw enough red dragons at to solve. But part of being an adversarial DM isn't being too hard on the players. It's being just hard enough. I want the people at the table to succeed. I have no animus to desire to make them fail. If I wanted to fulfill that, I could do it night after night. Roll up a new character, roll up a new character, roll up a new character, roll up a new character. I don't want that to happen. I want them to succeed. I take pride in seeing people overcome challenges. And that, I think, is what all good DMs should. But if they pull that away, if they just turn D&D into nothing more than a power fantasy where you turn on God mode, IDDQD, if you're, an old school Doom player,
yep.
Well, what's the point?
It's worse than that. You've got the players these days, they build these wonderful backstories, and that apparently is going to continue in D&D next. And actually, it's going to be more so now because here's kind of the problem, and this gets a little bit long and ranty, and I apologize for that. But players these days don't really have a lot of reference like we do. I mean, we kind of have a little bit of an advantage. We grew up in an era where lots of really good science fiction books and fantasy books were available. Moorcock, Howard, Tolkien, Roberts, all these guys, they wrote good fantasy, they wrote good science fiction. We could escape through that in a way. Kids these days don't tend to have that. There's a lot of social media. There's a lot of selfies. There's things like that. So there's a lot of self-insertion with their characters. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they tend to play their characters as self-inserts. And Tasha's was the worst possible thing they could have brought out, because before Tasha's, you had orcs, with minuses, you had kobolds with minuses, you had races that were somewhat kind of balanced with pluses and minuses to where they actually, weren't perfect at everything or weren't good at everything. Well, Tasha's eliminated all that by saying, well, it doesn't matter what you are, just, put the stats wherever you want to put them. And that basically reduced every single race in the D&D book to a skin suit. It's just a suit that a player puts on. Either the suit has horns and tail, or the suit has pointy ears, or the suit has a beard or whatever. They're not really races anymore. They're just things that you wear to look good, or they're just cosplay. They're aesthetics. They don't mean anything really. And that's even worse with D&D Next, because they have reduced it to where races themselves have no inherent ability scores whatsoever. The ability score modifiers will be determined by your character's class and their background. So, now you can have a 2-foot tall human with, the ability scores of, I don't know what used to be an orc, but, is a thief or something ridiculous, because that's just what the player envisioned for their character. And what I'm getting at is, since all the players are playing self-insert characters, they have more of an attachment to their characters than we used to,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when their characters get killed in a game, it's more traumatic to them than it would be to like one of us. One of us would be like, okay, well, if you can drag the body back to town and get it raised, that'd be cool. Otherwise, I'll be, sitting here rolling up another character, or I got this next character already ready to go. I knew this would happen, and that was especially true when you played basic D&D, where almost every single poison that you encountered in basic D&D would kill you, if you remember.
Yeah. I mean, unless the adventurer says otherwise, like sickens you, causes you a loss of dexterity. You're muted, so you can't say, you can't speak to your fellows or cast spells. It was largely deadly, and I mean, for the record, and I know this, but anybody out there who thinks that I'm Captain Anti-Fun or anybody, look, if I'm playing OD&D and you and this literally happened. This is an actual real world example. You reach into a plastic bag of minis that you brought and you pull out a tiefling and say, I want to play a tiefling. Is that okay? I'm like, sure. You take less damage from fire and you got horns on your head and ruddy skin, and people kind of don't like you. Awesome. Let's go. Because OD&D says, we've had, and it says in the books, we've had, in reference to the Lake Geneva people playing D&D in Gary's basement, right? We've had people who wanted to play androids, dragons, vampires, Balrogs. If that suits your game, go for it. Who are we to tell you what to think?
Yeah. Arneson's original campaign had a vampire player.
That is correct. And that's how we wound up with clerics.
Mm-hmm.
Sir Fang was hypnotizing everybody into giving him his gold, giving him their gold and magic items. And somebody took him aside and said, hey, this has got to stop. So I get the idea of being inclusive in that respect, if that suits your campaign. But a book that says, hey, DMs, you have to let the players do this, that doesn't sit well with me. If it doesn't work in the aspects of my campaign, I'm sorry, it doesn't. I mean, I don't care how cool you think having Animal Mother from Full Metal Jacket show. Actually, that would be kind of cool in D&D.
It would be kind of cool.
Insert character that doesn't fit Greyhawk, show up in the world of Greyhawk and insist that that's the way it's got to be. That sticks in my craw as a DM. And that's not the same as grabbing the crayons out of your kid's hand and saying you're coloring outside the lines. There's laying down guidelines and saying, let's stick to these for continuity. And that's not the same thing as being Captain Anti-Fun. I remember this, this screed that I'm trying to remember his name now. Jim Raggy put out years ago.
This
He
guy.
split a hernia going on about how RPGs aren't supposed to be fun. You're not here to have fun. And I'm like, Jim, you're missing the point, bud. But it has to be fun for everybody. You know, getting stuck under my bridge work because you demand to do something in game that I'm not really ready to introduce into my campaign is creating a lot of headaches and heartaches on this side of the GM screen. And what D&D 1 is going to introduce, you see what I did there?
I did.
What it's going to introduce is this insistence. No, you have to. I paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think it's not good, man. It's not good.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, we've already kind of seen like, you know, the proto version of what this kind of thing might lead to eventually. I mean, I am I've spent more time playing 3.0 Pathfinder First Edition than anything else, just because we've been playing it since it came out in 2000, and we're still playing it. It's 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, you know, it was a little bit of second edition, a little bit of first edition, a little bit of basic, and quite a few homebrew and other games like that. But so yeah, by the time Pathfinder First Edition, you know, finally stopped printing and they went to second edition, they had something on the order of, I don't remember, like over 200 feats and at least 40 different races with varying stats and changeabilities and all these other things that you could mix and match and slide in there. I mean, Golarion is really a big mess as far as a world setting, but I get the idea is they basically had to have a place for everything and every idea and every way to do it. You know.
I will interject real quick. I remember seeing this. This is Gary Con in 2018, and there were some vendors that were clearing out books, and I remember there were a couple of guys. You could either buy Pathfinder by the linear foot or by the pound.
Quite true.
That's literally how they were selling it. It's not like, well, that book is $25, that book is $38. It's just like, how many feet of Pathfinder do you want? How many pounds of Pathfinder do you want?
Yeah, Pathfinder is an amazing game, and there's still a lot of things I like about it. And there's still a lot of things I don't like about it. Me personally, I've been delving more and more into the OSR, and I found a lot of stuff I really like better. You know, I haven't found the perfect system, but one of the things I like about OSR is the fact that if I like, let's say I like Lamentations of the Flame Princess's Magic Missile, which I do because I think it's a great spell and I love the way that it was implemented. I can take that and I can stick it into, you know, my OSR game of, I don't know, Castles and Crusades or something. Or if I like Castles and Crusades' siege system and I think it's a great replacement for skills, I could stick that in there. And, you know, you could, you know, I guess the best way to put it is like, for some reason, OSR kind of reminds me of like an old car. Because, you know, like my first car was a 64 Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the cool things about one of the older cars is you could kind of mix and match parts from other vehicles and stick them in there and they worked.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah. Because, I mean, you know, how many times do you have kit cars, customized cars?
I am a huge fan of, and by the way, get on my level here, T-shirted, if you're not already watching the Car Resto guys, Thunderhead 289, Junkyard Digs, Vice Grip Garage, Dylan McCool. If you're not watching them on YouTube, get on that level, dude. You will love it because they'll do stuff like, well, this is my 67 Nova, or rather my 67 you know, Chevelle. I'm gonna put a 400 block Chrysler engine in it, and they do it.
Yeah,
you know,
you could do that back then.
Exactly. You know, it's got a Chrysler engine in it. I've got a Ford transmission because, you know, it's the Hydromatic, and I like it a little bit better. And like at a glance, you're like, oh, okay, that's a Chevy. No, it's not. It's so much fun to see what they do. And that degree of homebrew, you're absolutely right. And I think anyone who writes off a system And I say this, those of you who know that I engaged in the stupid edition wars.
Yes.
Can throw rotten fruit at me right now if you want, but you know, I didn't complain about third edition just to grouse. I played it for years. Some of the most fun I ever had was like a 4-week, very short Pathfinder Pathfinder campaign. I played Robert Plant. I played a bard. They said, "What do you want to play?" I said, "I want to be a bard." "Okay, you're a high-level bard. What's his name?" "Robert Plant." "Oh, like the Led Zeppelin." I said, "No, not like the Led Zeppelin guy. He is the Led Zeppelin guy." And I just had fun with it. And that's, those deadly words. I had fun, we had fun.
And you could do that. But see, the thing is, you could do that with the OSR. You can mix and match. You can build it the way you want to. You can take what you like and you can throw out the rest or whatever. It's wonderful. Whereas 5th edition, not so much. Maybe, I don't know.
So at its base game, a slight disagreement with you here. At its base game, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, I found that you could bolt in stuff out of AD&D without causing any great upset. You want, for me, staggered XP tables are the bee's knees. Magic users and fighters and paladins and thieves and illusionists and druids and monks and blah, 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 blah. Learn things differently look,
I'm with you on that.
My degree was in computer science. Okay. Somebody who has a medical degree, they might not even grok it. They might just be, look, I just need it to turn on so I can type my records in. How a human heart functions is utterly beyond me. How that person and me learn things are completely different, right? So on occasions when I ran 5th edition, I would say, look, we're using different XP charts for everybody.
I tried that. The one time I did run 5th edition, the only thing I didn't, at the time I did for a change was I come from a gaming table where we've had critical hits and fumbles for years. And I love it. I think it's fun. I think it adds an extra dimension of hilarity to the game. And sometimes you can get some really amusing situations out of a good fumble. So I went up on DriveThruRPG. I looked for a decent set of 5th edition fumble and critical tables and said, okay, I'm going to use this in the game. I used it in the game, and these people looked at me like I had just, climbed onto their marble dining room table and just taken a big old steaming crap on it. And I'm not kidding you. They looked at me like they could not believe it. They looked disgusted. They couldn't believe what I was doing. And I'm just like, it's just a critical hit and fumble table. What's the problem? But they didn't like it.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, even if we get people to stay on tabletop, I think you're going to see more and more rigidity. People talk about me being rigid because I try to cleave as much to 1st edition AD&D rules as possible, and people are like, "Oh man, you really, you're anti-fun. You don't want to flex at all." Wait till you see what happens in the next 18 months to 2.5 years with people who play in DM5e when you say, hey, let's just change X at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are going to have an aneurysm when you say, yeah, I'm running D&D 1, but we're going to use XP tables from an older version of D&D where you leveled differently.
Oh, they'll freak out, especially if it's not being supported by D&D Beyond, because then they can't punch it into their app.
How do I even do that, man? That's not on my phone. Well, I'll tell you. And then what? What if I forget it? We'll write it down. Like on paper? Is this the time of Charlemagne or something?
Yeah, paper gets lost, paper gets chewed up, and
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll email it to you. Nobody uses email, Grandpa. It's just becoming this mess, which is, let's be 100% honest, what Wizards of the Coast wants. They want to drive a very clear. Thank you. I'm deaf now. Thank you, Adobe. They want to drive a very clear rift between the way things are gonna be done and the way things used to be done.
Well, because they can control it.
I will tell you this, and I hope this gives you hope, and I hope this gives anyone out there, whether you're watching this live, whether you come back to this live, every time, and I love this fact, this warms me more than the shot in the Guinness I just had. Every time I have run classic Dungeons and Dragons, whether it's original D&D or first edition AD&D, at an event at my FLGS, my friends Todd and Anna, they've got a great comic store over on International Drive, Gods and Monsters. There's your plug, guys. Nobody has ever stepped away from the table and said, well, that sucked. I could do anything I wanted. I wasn't relying on constantly looking at my character sheet and constantly having to roll skill checks. I just hated it. No, the opposite. Everybody came back and said, that was so cool. I could do anything. I could just tell you what I was doing. And you'd say, yeah, you can do that. And isn't that the way D&D should be? Am I wrong? I mean, should D&D not be just a disconnection from having to constantly stare at an app or papers? I mean, imagine you're trying to DM and everybody's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're looking at a tablet or a phone. Imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, you glance at your paper. Okay, let me see. Ted, the 8th level fighter, he's got 58 hit points. All right, I know he's got 58 hit points. He's armor class -2, and his sword is +2. Cool. Let's go. Maybe they might stop and ask me, I might say, give me a save versus spells. What do I need to make that? Well, it's on your sheet. Okay, and we say, oh, okay, I got that. All right. But when you disconnect people from that and you just have them talking to you and looking at the cool shit on the table, the miniatures and terrain, if you're into that, that is the elevating point. And why Wizards of the Coast would think anything other than that is the best way to play D&D is completely beyond me. I mean, analytically, objectively, it's to keep people buying apps and digital miniatures and game supplements, right?
Mm-hmm. Publish or die.
Publish or die. Publish or die. TSR, when they listened to what Gary said, was financially successful because they published adventure modules. And, I've heard this adventure modules since 2000. I've heard from people in the inner circle at Wizards of the Coast, adventure modules don't sell. They didn't really sell. Really? Because the first print run, the pastel cover of Tomb of Horrors, guess what? It sold 250,000 copies.
Got one here around here somewhere.
You go back to putting out $5, $6, $7, $8 flimsy covered adventures, and to quote Doc Brown, you'll see some serious shit, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a dungeon delver.
Yeah, a lot of people poo-poo on the usefulness of modules and say that they don't use them and all this, but I find them intensely useful, especially because I run Sandbox off the cuff anyway, and it's always handy to have a module nearby just because I want to use elements from it in my game to begin with. So
yeah. And I think where so many, I think a lot of bad habits were forged at the tables of 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds. And I'm not being ageist. I was that age too back then. But I think a lot of people, they have this disconnect where they only remember the one kid who like was a killer DM and like killed 8 of their characters playing whatever module, and then they go, modules are bad. Modules are not meant to be opened and run right then. You know, it's hey, I just got back from the comic store. I have this module called Tomb of Horrors. I'm going to take the shrink wrap off it, and we're going to start playing it right now. They're to be read, gone over with a fine-toothed comb, and incorporated into a campaign.
I have to admit, I was that 10-year-old killer DM because, unfortunately, the very first module I ever got was Tomb of Horrors. And my thought process was, here I am with basic D&D and Tomb of Horrors. And after reading through Tomb of Horrors, I'm like, oh, so this is the object of how you're supposed to run the game. This is my example for how to run the game. You're basically supposed to humiliate and shred your other players as much as possible. Okay, I can do that. Lo and behold, man, I killed a lot of characters.
Well, and that's the you know, that's the learning, the object lesson, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is what happened, and I changed my ways, and I don't do that. But so many people came away from that, I think, with the idea that, well, like, modules are bad then, and we shouldn't, you know, we should never do that. That you know, they didn't take away the lessons that you took away, and they didn't take away the lessons that I took away, and those people wound up dictating how D&D was going to be.
I'm not sure if that was the case or not. These days, I think Wizards of the Coast, what they're very happy doing is they're more than happy to put out the setting books because they already have access to that IP. So it's just money for them to print. You know, oh, look, we're sitting on Ravenloft. Hey, Ravenloft used to sell real well back in the day. Let's put out a setting book for Ravenloft. People will buy it. Well, what about modules and things to support it? Well, we'll let the kids on DM's Guild do that, and we'll take 50% of their cut, and we'll get paid. We don't have to do a damn thing.
And I think I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just what they're happy doing right now. Is they're just happy taking old IP, you know, dropping it back into players' laps and not bothering to support it. I mean, have you seen anything come out from Ravenloft since they released it? Was it a year ago almost?
So I don't follow 5e that much, but I'm guessing the answer is no. That there's not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I feel like
as popular as Spelljammer is, do you think in a year that they'll have any actual Wizards of the Coast published supplements or anything for that book?
No, and I think Spelljammer is an unfortunate case because what I've seen from Wizards of the Coast is before there is a tectonic shift in what they're doing. I think I can't remember the property, but it happened between 3.5 and 3rd edition. And it happened with, was it Forgotten Realms in 4e and Essentials? And then I don't remember what it was between 4th and 5th edition, but basically every time they've moved the continental plates, they throw in a little sop to a previously underappreciated property that immediately gets lost in the shuffle. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, hey guys, we're releasing stuff for, you know, let's just say between D&D Current and D&D Next. Birthright. Guys, we're going to release Birthright. Okay, cool.
Oh boy.
And it's the last thing that they release for this edition. And nobody's buying it because everybody wants the new shiny. And then Wizards of the Coast and says, oh yeah, sorry, nobody really bought the new Birthright release we did. I don't know why, but I guess it means Birthright's not popular. So, you know, you can't have any more Birthright. Sorry. It didn't sell. Well, it's because you deliberately sabotaged it by hooking it between 2 rail cars and tearing it down. And I think that's happened more times than not. And it's like some of my fellow Greyhawk grognards say, oh, we want Greyhawk. We bring back Greyhawk. Show some love for Greyhawk. No, you don't. You don't want Wizards of the Coast to do that. I don't want to wake up one morning and say, hey, guys, Wizards of the Coast is releasing new Greyhawk material.
Oh, can you imagine them doing Dark Sun? I'm still waiting for that.
No, I don't want that. And nobody out there wants that. Evening Yang ends out. Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, it's Poncho Goblin. Good to see you.
Oh, Poncho Goblin, welcome.
I'll tell you what would be. You think these guys are mad right now about the species shit? Wait until if they did try to release Birthright with its bioessentialism and everything else, these people's heads would explode.
Yeah. There's a lot of properties, and I was literally in my mind's eye looking at the giant wall of TSR products. I just grabbed Birthright, but no, you're right. That would never. That would never ever happen, a Birthright revival. But the point of what I'm saying, and I think you absolutely get this, is that they hide properties that fans want love for. Right, they lay it so half of it's on the edition that's dying, half of it's on the edition that's coming in, and then when they separate, people just forget about it. It just gets swept away because it's like, again, oh yeah, you guys wanted Dark Sun, and we did release Dark Sun, but nobody bought it. Yeah, because it was for a previous edition that you guys stopped supporting a year after you released it.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, they're really good about sabotaging their own stuff. And I'm curious to see whatever, D&D 1 doesn't officially release until 2024. So it'll be, I've already got a list of what is supposed to be coming for 2023. At least the next 4 or 5 releases. And I have noticed that their release dates for their big major releases is a lot slower than it was. Because you noticed before, it was, okay, we're releasing this, and just the same week it's being released, they're already announcing the next product to get released. It's like they're already, it's like, okay, that's released. We don't care about it anymore. Now here's the next thing. Buy this.
Yeah.
They don't want you to think about what you're buying. They just want you to consume the product mindlessly. Kind of like, movies these days.
Yeah. What is it? Don't ask question, just consume product, then buy new product.
Yes.
And that's absolutely it. By the way, I just want to interject because some people did ask, some folks are maybe new to the show. And by the way, folks, we are at 1,430. I'll have to go back and check, but thank you all very much for support. We're 1,431 subs on the channel. And by the way, T-shirted, drop your link and I'll share it out here and folks can check you out on the web. But we do have a Discord. I'm going to stick that link up there while T-shirted puts that over in the green room, and I can bring it out and put that placard up for you guys. But I think we're going to see, I think you're going to agree with me on this, T-shirt, and I hope you do. And if not, that's fine too. But I think we're going to see a quiet divorce. Like when you look at the ridiculous and stupid and embarrassing amount of time that yours truly spent edition warring. If I had typed stuff about adventures as often as I type stuff about third edition, I could have published a dozen books, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think we're going to see that between D and Done and everything from 5e back. I think it's just going to be irreconcilable. Bye. And we're just nobody's going to be screeching at the people on different sides of the convention hall. It's just going to be bye.
I am kind of curious because I know that there's 5th edition players who are not going to want to go to D&D 1. and I'm curious to see how many of them jump ship and decide, well, I don't really want to go with this new edition, even though it's not a new edition, because it is a new edition, and I'm just going to stick with my old books. Because those are the players who eventually, will get around to and say, if you're really having fun with this, why don't you try Worlds Without Number? Why don't you try Lamentations of the Flame Princess? Why don't you try Cyberpunk? Why don't you try Torg? Because us old farts have been playing all of these things since before you were born, and we know that there's more than 3 characters that make a game. D&D. There's a lot more games out there than that, and there has been since D&D first came out. I mean, almost as soon as it came out, we had Tecumo and Chaosium brought out was it RuneQuest not so long afterward, and there's so many Tunnels and Trolls.
Traveler,
yes, all the old games.
Mark Miller famously looked at he said, "What's making Dungeons and Dragons so damn successful? I will copy that." I mean, not the rules, but he was like, "This worked for TSR, minimal art, 6 stats down the line," and he went with it. And by God, Traveler is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you remember Arduin?
Arduin, yes. Dave Hargraves, Arduin.
Yes.
So much, there's so much of that now. I love Dungeons and Dragons with all my heart. It is my favorite thing. If somebody showed up at my house and said, "You can keep one role-playing game system, everything's got to go. Otherwise," I would say, "I will miss you, Twilight 2000 and Cyberpunk and Mechton and Heavy Gear and yada, 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 yada." I just love AD&D that much. But with that said, I get it. The people, if you think you're going to be dragged kicking and screaming into Done territory, like I said on Twitter today, come join us over here at the AD&D table. We have beer. I got more than this. I'll share. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure T-shirted will too.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what we're doing, regardless of what we're playing. And I mean, I will put my money where my mouth is, but as an old schooler guy, I don't think much is going to change. I don't suspect they're going to go full on 1994 TSR and come after me for not, showing up at the wedding to kiss the capo's ring, as it were, for stuff that I do. But we'll see. I certainly hope that's not the case. I do have a question for you though, and this was who was this? Tonka Todd said, how did you come on the handle T-shirted historian? And speaking of T-shirted historian, guys, that's his link there. Please check him out on YouTube. Give him a subscribe. Give him a like.
Yes, please. I could use a few subs. I'm definitely undersubbed. And we have a great panel on Saturdays, and on the Tuesdays I do Dungeons and Discussions. But
excellent.
To answer your question, as it happens, I'm a degreed historian. That's one of my 2 degrees. One of them is in history. The other one is in public relations, art design. but yeah, history is kind of my first love. Yeah, and as it happens, I'm a big guy. I'm not comfortable wearing button-down shirts and ties and all that garbage. I'm very comfortable with T-shirts. I have well over 40 T-shirts that I wear, and I just like them. So, Pundit told me that was unprofessional for an educator to wear T-shirts, and I'm like, well, it doesn't affect my job performance, so why should it matter?
Dude, Pundit also thinks he can cast magic spells, so...
Yeah, I'm not throwing any shade at Pundit though. He's a really genuinely cool human being, and I do like the guy.
Let me tell you something. There's a lot that Pundit says that I don't agree with. Okay, there is no harder working person in kitchen sink press for doing stuff. Pundit is one of those guys that you could literally write down 5 ideas on an index card of no more than 5 words each and hand them to him. And 16 months later, you'd have 5 separate role-playing games about those ideas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There is a lot of There's a lot of writers who I don't necessarily subscribe to their thought process, but I do like them as individuals, and they're a lot of fun to talk to. Venger Satanas is one of them. We've got RPG Pundit. Grim Jim and I, we're friends. We're buddies. We mostly kind of think the same, except we have a few differences. I'm very much on my Second Amendment rights because I live in Texas, so he doesn't like that. But,
and the ability to agree to disagree. I mean, that's like a fundamental. That's as much of a right as breathing. That's as much of a right as metabolizing. Is the right to agree to disagree peacefully with people when it's, we're not talking about, like, nobody has ever come to my house and threatened to burn it down because I don't like 3rd edition D&D.
Right.
And I hope it remains that way. And, I've gotten in vehement, heated debates. I'm not proud of it, but at the end of the day, it is just that. It is just a matter of personal disagreement. And like I said, I have nothing but respect for Pundit's ability to output work, regardless of what and his forum. If you think he is being just an absolute cockholster, you can tell him that. As long as you're not spammy about it and that's not your only response. If he says something and you think it merits saying that and you say that, he's not going to, you're not going to get like some huddle in a private forum where, what to be done about you is decided and you receive some red text post in public pointing out how you committed thought crime and that you're going to be banned for X days. He might get pissed off at you eventually if you do it just like constantly to no end and just say, you know what, I don't have time for you. Go somewhere else.
You got Wave of Mutilation talking about Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is all you need. Wave, I'm going to partially agree with you, although not entirely, because although I do like Call of Cthulhu, what I actually like about it the most is I like the system, which is derived from the original RuneQuest system, which was also used in Hawkmoon, in Stormbringer, and all the other Chaosium licenses. I like that system with its percentile skills. I think it's a great system.
Did you pick this up? Have you picked this up yet?
Yeah, I've got the original one with the box. I got
the 1-inch version. I'm not disputing the price. I'm talking about my own finances. $119 for the 2-inch version was a little too spendy for me, but oh my gosh, this is the most awesome thing. This is something like Wizards of the Coast needs to be. It's what they used to do. I mean, I have the OD&D set here. I have the AD&D reprints back here. Why are they not still doing that? I talked about this last night. Why are they leaving literal piles of money on the floor? Re-release basic Wizards of the Coast there. That's free. You re-release the pink, the magenta basic box with the Errol Otis art and the blue companion box. Guess what? You just made $500,000.
Oh yeah, easily. Which actually, that brings me to another point. This is something that aggravates me a lot about Wizards of the Coast. Just recently, my fellow panelist and friend Ironcaster was letting me know about the situation with Magic the Gathering, that they're releasing a new set of cards, which roughly they're going to retail for like $20 per card. So you're going to be paying like $240 a box.
Oof.
And they're like foils and all this other good garbage. But what actually irritates me more than anything else is some of the card art is designed to look like the classic D&D modules, with the little picture window and the text on both sides.
They got Errol to do those.
Yeah. Now, here's what pisses me off. They will use those things to nostalgia bait you into buying those things because you're thinking, oh, nostalgia, cool. I like this because this reminds me of the good old happy days. And then they will continue to put those damning warnings on all of the old legacy content modules. In other words, they're still saying that the old people who wrote all these books are problematic, and that what's there is problematic. But we'll gladly nostalgia bait you into buying it. I had a game session last weekend with a guy who actually used to play with Gary Gygax, who used to work. He used to play at his table, and that was James M. Ward, the guy who wrote Metamorphosis Alpha.
We've had
Gamma World
on the show many times. Yeah, I know Jim.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah,
and it aggravates me. We did get to talk a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to about what D&D is doing these days, and the fact that there's stuff that he's written that has this legacy content, because this is a problematic content for people. I'm like, there's nothing problematic about James M. Ward.
No, there's not. And I mean, it's pathetic. It's literally pathetic. And the thing, I said this. This is my second time out on Twitter, and I got to say, it's a lot of Twitter's a lot of fun now. Okay, look, that's all I'm going to say. I literally don't at me, don't DM me, not you, but people in general. Twitter is a lot of fun right now. Okay, and it's primarily because I figured out how to tweak it. So I just hear from you guys, right? I don't get recommended. Like the first time I was on Twitter, and people are like, "Oh, you're posting D&D stuff up. You want to talk politics?" No, I don't. I don't want to hear any of that. Oh, okay. Next time I'm on Twitter, hey, here's some crazy shit Trump said. I just want to talk about role playing. No, I got you, bro. I got you. Role playing games, cool. Here's some bad shit going down in the Supreme Court. I was like, oh my god! And I just I nuked it, and I never logged back in. Now that I'm back on, that hasn't happened so far, knock on wood. But all you guys that I've interacted with on Twitter, it's been great, and it's been a lot of fun. And I said on Twitter that the old ways, generally speaking, really were the best. And for these people who are like, Gary Gygax was he didn't like people of color, and he didn't like this, and he didn't like that. I'm like, you know what? Luke, Elsie, Heidi, Ernie, Alex, they're all on social media. Go tell them. Go on. Go tell them. Go tell them directly to their face what you think of their dad. And a funny thing happens when I do that. I get blocked.
Oh, yeah.
You will tell me that I am a terrible person worthy of all of these things. And that because I like classic Dungeons and Dragons, I am an equally terrible person because Gary was a terrible person, because Jim was a terrible person, because all these guys were terrible people. And when I turn around and say, don't tell me, tell their families, suddenly crickets.
Mm-hmm. And how many times have you been blocked by people who you've never interacted with whatsoever?
I didn't even say anything. Now, I know that Twitter kind of bends to the direction. Like if we do a college football show, myself and some friends, and on that Twitter account, all this is trending is sports related. Yeah. That's the way it works. It shows you what you want to see, or at least it does now. But back in August, I took a Facebook post that was really heartfelt from someone about this topic of old D&D was problematic. And this fellow said some very, very, very decent things. And I posted it. I didn't even put hashtags on it. I wasn't doing the hashtag stuff. I just posted it on my feed and I said, I feel this. I feel every word of this. this thing got like 1,000 views, which for me, that's big numbers, right? That's not like, Bill Gates or Elon Musk or somebody saying something on Twitter. I get it. I had so many people that I had never heard of before and have never tweeted at me since who came at me and decided, because I posted this and said, I feel every word of this, that I was a German National Socialist from mid-1930s. 45, that I was a person who disliked people of other ethnic persuasions, that I was a person who disliked people of different sexual persuasions, that I was all of these terrible things, that I was all of these horrible things. And, somebody like put me on a list and on their list that they put me on had a message that popped up when I said, so-and-so is added to their list. And I clicked it and it said, it was a way to get me to read their insult to me by seeing what this list was on. So I made this list just for you, _Dungeon Delver, blah, 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 blah. In essence, you suck. And I remember I eventually turned off notifications for it, not because lots of people liked it. Lots and lots of people liked it, but I was starting to see like people's conversations about conversations about things that were said in response to it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So I just muted it because I was like, you're not even talking about me anymore. But the day that I went in to mute it, I looked over, and for the first time ever on Twitter, I saw what was trending that day was AD&D. AD&D. I kind of broke Twitter for an afternoon, and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first major engagement I had with Twitter, and I was still kind of young at it. I had just had a game with a friend who I've been playing with for I don't even know how many years now. I mean, we were high school buds, and we're both seasoned gamers, so it's not like we both fell off the the newbie truck yesterday. But I was running a game, and he was in it, and I mean, granted, he was a little bit rusty, but he kept on doing okay, well, my character goes down to this, and I was like, and I kept telling him, it's like, Roy, you could just play it in character, okay? I mean, if you're actually speaking to somebody, then just, say what you would say in character. This guy's talking to you, just pretend I'm the guy. He's like, oh, yeah, okay. So he kept doing well, I tell him this, that, and I said, Roy, just say what you're going to say. Well, it irritated me because, Roy knows how to play better. He knows the rules. He's been around us. We play this way, And I just happened to mention it up on social media. I said, hey, it really aggravates me when I have to tell player to please stop referring to themselves in third person when they're having a conversation with an NPC. And oh my God, man, as every single freak just came out from under the woodwork accusing me of all kinds of stuff. You're a gatekeeper. You're a this, you're a that, you're such a horrible person. How come that person may not have any ability to do any better than that, and you're criticizing them for that? How dare you do those things? And I'm just like, you have no reference for what I'm speaking of, because Twitter doesn't allow you enough characters to really make your feelings and your words known. But yeah, these people just came out of the woodwork to label me as an awful person, a gatekeeper, a scumbag, whatever, you name it. And it was just over this.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, and I don't know if you've heard me mention this before, but Twitter can be it can be fun, but it can also be awful because it's like you hit that character limit. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm going to add a post to this, but if you're responding to someone, you don't get the little ad thing. You just have to respond to it, and stuff can get lost. So I will tell you, and this is what I've said it on the live stream before. You should gatekeep. You should gatekeep. Here is the gate. The gate is this. Do you want to play tabletop role-playing games? Now, I know you do. I'm not pointing at you. You know what I'm saying.
I do.
Do you want to play tabletop role-playing games? And the answer is, if you're hanging around on here, or if you bump into me on other forms of social media, odds are yes, you do. Then sit down, leave everything, your backpack full of troubles, concerns, worries, over by the door, sit down and play Dungeons and Dragons. Congratulations, you'll be playing D&D, and I have successfully gate kept. That is the gate. The gate is, I only want people who want to play tabletop role-playing games, and that's it. Okay. If you can just keep that gate, your games will be 100% better. So when I say, yes, I want to gatekeep, I don't mean like you have to pass some purity test. Like, okay, before I let you play AD&D, who sits on the throne in chat hold right now in Greyhawk? What do you mean you don't know? Get out! You know, that's that kind of gatekeeping. I think me and people on the other side of the fence can agree is stupid and bad.
Yes.
But my gate, you know, if you come to my table, like one fellow did, he had seen Dungeons and Dragons played like in middle school in the 1980s. He was my age. And he was gate kept away. Nerds would not let him nerd with them.
Huh.
And he was watching me set up this massive Dwarven Forge set up in an event. And he said, and he told me that. And I said, cool, go in the store and get some dice and come out and you'll play. And he said, oh, no, I don't know how to play. I wouldn't be any good at it. I was like, go get some dice and sit down and play.
Yep. I had a similar experience. We were playing Shadowrun, and we had a guy coming and sit down, and our games master said, yeah, he wants to watch. I looked over and I said, no, you don't get to watch. You have to play. So I handed him a character sheet. We handed him some dice. We said, just jump in, do what we do. And sure enough, man, he ended up, loving the game, playing with us, and being a great member of the party. And, that's the best way.
You're damn right. The gate is there. The gate isn't there to keep out people who don't know how to play or don't know the lore. The gate is there to keep out tourists.
Yeah.
If you want to come and sit at the table and play Call of Cthulhu, Ghostbusters, Chill, Hero System, Mechton, Mech Warrior, original Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, then sit down and play it, but leave the rest of the crap out of the table.
Yes.
That is my gatekeeping. That is how I keep the gate. And you know what? I find that it works pretty damn well. And I think everybody else out there, if people did that, I would wager that the RPG horror stories subreddit would dry up and blow away. There were legacy stories of back in the 90s, back in the 80s, back in the 70s, because people would realize that the creepy guy with, some questionable anime art on his t-shirt who, wants to play a self-insert 14-year-old girl.
Yikes.
If you say, you're not here at my table to play D&D, you're here to work on some fetish, aren't you? If you get that guy out, again, the RPG horror stories, YouTubes and subreddits would go away regardless of whatever it is. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the people who come in and they want to bring their politics, regardless of what politics they are. I don't want to hear from anybody about their political points of view when I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons. Because guess what? Joe Biden is not the president of Furry-Yandi.
Nope.
Donald Trump is not the Duke of the Duchy of Jeff.
Mm-mm.
Leave it out. And it's that simple. It's that simple. And I wish if more people did that, I think you and I would probably have fewer heart problems.
Definitely.
And
I've maintained this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I said I've maintained this. A lot of people ask, they say, what's wrong with 5th edition? And I always tell them, I said, there is mechanically, as far as the rules go, nothing wrong with 5th edition. I mean, I don't necessarily like everything about 5th edition. I mean, I don't like the death saves. I don't like the short rests. There's various other little nitpicky things that I don't like about 5th edition. But as a rule system, it's perfectly usable. It's perfectly fine. It's never been about the rule system itself. It is the culture that surrounds the game that is the problem.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And now I've talked about, I don't want to talk about politics, and yet I'm kind of about to do that. This is more about social matters, though. No thing has ever benefited a company, a government, an organization by everybody subservient to that thing being unified in how they want it to be. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That the condition of not gatekeeping is a condition that Wizards of the Coast wants to exist. They want turmoil at the tables. Because if we're paying attention to yelling at each other and games breaking down after 8, 10, 12 sessions, instead of going on for nearly a decade like my Monday night AD&D game has, well, then you wind up with a dread of legacy players.
Oh, by the way, I was corrected about that. When I would talk to Pundit, I told him, I said, I'm hearing that most stuff is only written for 6th level because, games rarely get beyond 6th level. He said, sir, are you aware of the latest statistics? I said, no, what do you mean? He said, it's not 6th level. 6 game sessions is the average play time for a D&D game these days.
This Wizards of the Coast is rapidly embracing the Games Workshop model, and this is something I've talked about before. If you look over here, if you look over my head, you'll see that I have a Space Hulk set from 1997, 1996. It's a 2nd edition. In it are the 1st edition Space Hulk rules, but it's also 2nd edition. I love Space Hulk. Games Workshop hates me. Okay. They wish I would go away. Games Workshop model is this. Kid between 10 and 14, the only money he has is moms and dads.
Yep.
Sees the cool videos, chapter master, whoever's YouTube painting channels, whatever, wants to do it. Mommy, I want an army. Daddy, I want an army. I want all the paints. Where can we get this stuff? Why, at a Warhammer store. So they take the kid to the Warhammer store, the Games Workshop store. He buys the army. Maybe he paints half of them, a quarter of them, maybe all of them. But right about the time he's gone through 1.5 to 2 rules changes, and he's starting to scratch his head going, well, why should I buy new figures? I've got these. He hits 15, 16 and discovers certain feelings, right? Girls, or maybe guys, or maybe it's a girl who discovers girls. But the point is, now all of a sudden, this isn't important. All that stuff goes in a box and it goes up on a closet shelf, and then it gets sold on eBay, preferably thrown out. Games Workshop would prefer you just take it down and throw it in the garbage.
Oh yeah, they don't want that stuff out there.
Those are the only customers. Those are the only customers Game Workshop wants. A kid that comes in, spends $500 to $3,000 of mommy and daddy's money over the course of about 36 to 48, maybe 72 months on the outside, and then leaves and never comes back, never looks back. I remember Rogue Trader. All right. I can recite some Deathwing lore that is no longer canonical. They hate guys like me. They don't want me to play because I'll show up at a store with an army of metal squats.
Oh, squats.
and tell everybody, hey, these are space dwarves and they were pretty cool. And then those people start to wonder, well, where are all the space dwarves? They're really cool. Why can't we play those? Disclaimer, I don't play 40K. I'm just making an example. But the point is, Games Workshop doesn't want that. And what you're saying with what Pundit told you about 6 sessions and you're out, it's the same thing. Wizards of the Coast wants you to buy the t-shirt, buy the baseball cap, buy the keychains, get some minis, get some rule books, and please, 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 within the next 6 months to a year, leave. We've gotten your money. You're just going to keep writing your own adventures and playing the same character. Please leave. And that's the sad reality. They're entering the Games Workshop singularity phase. It's kind of like how they say, the distant future of our universe, all the stars will burn out and it'll just be a collection of a few quadrillion black holes. There won't be any light. It'll just be that. That's the stage that Wizards of the Coast, I think, is racing to enter. So they've got all the energy in themselves. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just being cynical.
Maybe not. I don't know. They're just kind of looking to make the fast buck as quick as they can.
Oh, this is a good one from Poncho Goblin. I forget where I saw it, but someone described 5e as a collectible character game.
Yes, that does fit.
Yeah. And I've talked about. Let me ask you something, and I'll give you a chance to talk because you're my guest, and I've been running my mouth for 20 minutes nonstop. What is your thought on character backstory? Hit me.
Well, at first level, you don't really have one. Your first level, you're nobody. Your whole idea of your character at first level should be, I'm nobody. I'm here to make a name for myself. This is why I adventure. If I didn't adventure, I would be like every other schlep and farm or sell stuff or something else that doesn't involve doing dangerous things. Matter of fact, it's my opinion that adventurers are at heart deeply suicidal because it takes a lot of guts and a lot of fear to go and willingly wander into a nest of monsters that can and will kill you given the chance.
Mm-hmm.
Just to risk it for some gold or a little bit of fame. There are easier things you could do in this life. Right now, 2023, I don't work as a mercenary. Why? Because it's an extremely dangerous profession.
Yeah.
I know that the chance of getting my head blown off is much higher than if I don't do that.
Yeah. No, that's exactly correct. It's, but I think you and I are on the same wavelength when it comes to backstory. Backstory, in my opinion, is when you're sitting around, maybe not even gaming, and you're saying, yeah, no shit, there we were in the hall of Fire Giant King. Bob's down to like 3 hit points and 1 spell left. I'm over here in the corner chugging a potion of healing as fast as I can, and we still got 3 fire giants to fight. That's backstory.
Yeah.
When you talk about all the glory that you heaped on your name, and to go back to address this very, very good comment from yes, thank you, about just about that nature is that the collectible characters is everybody wants to build the ultimate character. I'm a dragonborn half tiefling, and here is 5 pages of backstory, and here's why you must give me a scythe that does double damage on a 20 advantage roll. And I'm like, hold up there, Elric. Hold up there, Witcher. Pump the brakes, Gandalf. How about you start as a fighter? hit me up in 6 or 8 months when you got some adventures under your belt. But people want that perfect little mental image of their perfect little character, as said, a collectible character. You know,
I would love it if somebody wanted Stormbringer or Rune or Morn, was it Mornblade? Because it's like, you guys, did you actually read how Elric ends? Did you this is the guy. This is the polar opposite of Conan. This is a weak, physically weak man who is an albino who has everything. He's an emperor. He's got power. He's got women. He's got everything that he wants at the beginning of the novel, and throughout all the series of books, loses everything to the point of his own sword jumping up and killing him at the very end.
Yeah.
What you want for your character?
Right at the beginning of the books, we're introduced to the fact that Elric, I mean, people kid about coffee. Oh, this is my potion that gets me going in the morning. No, Elric needed that to get out of bed and walk to his throne room. Elric had to prepare a potion. He didn't have Stormbringer at that point to have human souls powering him. He had to concoct potions to drink so he could walk across the massive palace and not drop dead from exhaustion. Yeah, you don't want that for your character. But regardless of what it is it? I mean, maybe it's just all part of their plan with a capital P. Come front loaded. That way, you don't have to stick around for a decade to see how your character is going to look. You'll just spend your money in a few months and then piss off. You'll go find video games or something.
I'm actually getting to where I almost kind of prefer systems where the characters are front loaded. Hyperborea being one of them. Your character has most all of their awesome abilities right there at level 1. But it's still old school. As far as the way the hit points and everything else works. So you can still die in a couple of hits if you're unlucky. Especially at first level. I'm still and again, I'm the bad customer, right? I'll tell you straight up, you need a Dungeon Master's Guide, a Player's Handbook, and a monster manual, and that's it. Mm-hmm. There's all the game you need in the world. I have a stack of classic modules behind me I haven't dipped into much because my party for the Monday night game, and I wasn't kidding, it's been going on a decade, 11 plus people, roam back and forth across the world of Greyhawk. And all I have to do is just keep rolling in tables for stuff they run into in the wilderness, right? But regardless of what system you're doing, I think story-wise, story is what you create. Story is what you create at the table. The first level character, the first level fighter, I'm big into level names. Yes, me too.
The first fighter in AD&D is referred to as a veteran because he spent a month, a year, 2 years, whatever, in the peasant levies and decided this is BS. If I'm going to get killed, it's not going to be on the end of Farmer Brown's pitchfork or some bored nobleman's lance. I'm at least going to try and make some money doing it, And that's what there's your backstory. There's your first level fighter backstory.
Actually, as a trade-off for starting off the characters at first level, I really like the idea, and I've seen several systems do this, DCC, Low Fantasy Gaming, a few others, where your character starts out as a 0 level, kind of a nobody. I mean, you have your profession, you have a very minimum amount of hit points, but you don't really have a class. So you don't have access to all the cool stuff that your class can do. All you can pretty much do is survive because you're a 0 level. And once you manage to score a certain amount of XP, like I think it's 100 XP, you can actually take your first level in whatever class you want to get into. But I'm much more for that as your backstory. It's like, okay, you start out as a nobody. You're, let's see what you become.
Yeah. And I appreciate systems like that. I do. I appreciate them more than complete front loads of, again, 9 different 9 different pages of story and story beats, and oh, this will be in your world now because it's in my backstory, Mr. DM. I know that you didn't plan for there to be half demon, half unicorns, but that's what my character is. So that I'm warping your world to fit that. But I feel like that both mentioned the character funnel, I think, is that what they call it in DCC?
Yeah, the character funnel.
The character funnel. I think that I would love to play a system like that as a player, but I am, I'm what's the Wojak meme, the forever alone except forever DM. That's me. I'm the perma DM. Maybe someday, right? I've told my players, I've told my Monday night players, I'm like, look, when you guys get high enough level, I don't want to spoil it because we're all in our. I think our youngest player is in his mid 30s, and they're averaging up to like 7th and a half or 8th level. I said, we hit a point. I'm running against the giants, Descent into the Depths of the Earth, Queen of the Demon Woods. Whether it's a total party kill or you guys kill Loth at that point, one of you people is going to pick up the wizard hat because I ain't doing it anymore after that. So, but no, I have a good group. My wife was in the hospital back in August, and one of my players picked up and ran Keep on the Borderlands with AD&D rules, and it was oodles of fun to run that. Thank you very much, Dan, if you're out there. I still appreciate that. That was fantastic. But no, I think a character funnel game can be a lot of fun if that's what you're after. As my occasional co-host on Wednesday nights, Kyle Schuant runs Classic Traveler, where it's not a me. You can't die during character creation. I'll stay in the Navy one more time. Roll the dice. You died.
Yep.
Start over. You did 5 terms. You got all this great stuff heaped on you. You were on the verge of retiring with your own private space yacht. And then a bad dice roll, so you got to start over. So the character funnel is real, and it ain't a new thing either, kids. So ultimately, I think, though, unfortunately, having to set aside that goodness, I think Wizards of the Coast they're doing a bad thing. It's not good. It's the opposite of good. It is the positive of bad. And they're going to have to learn the hard way. This is, in my opinion, this is going to blow up just like 4th edition did for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're setting up the exact same conditions for what happened to them with 4th edition, and when Paizo managed to snag so much of their market share because nobody liked 4th edition, myself included.
Yeah, well, same here. It is the one edition of D&D. I have played every version of D&D that has ever been published except for 4th. And I'm sorry, I take that as a point of pride. I really didn't think much of it at all. And I think we're headed to a point where this next D&D coming up is going to be just as reviled. It's like they've got the reverse Star Trek, the even number D&D editions are the bad ones. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about DCC funnels. Bob Jester says he loves DCC. But speaking of people out there in the audience, before we wrap up, any questions you've got for our guest, T-shirted historian, anything at all? If anyone has any questions, now is your chance to ask. And I want to, if you'll pardon me for just a minute, there, T-shirted, I want to take a minute because we do have some folks who their help with keeping the lights on, literally keeping the lights on around here is inestimable. So I want to take just a quick minute to thank those folks. So let me say thank you to Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien247. I can only assume that means he's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. James F. Keck, William Smith, the Dungeon Minister, Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, the increasingly frighteningly named Carnivore Farmer, Rob, Jeremy Rule, Bo Ganora, Mikey Mank, Sky Hernstrom, who's a great author, by the way. I think you'd love him, T-shirted. If you haven't read Sky Hernstrom's stuff, get there. Pete Sullivan, the DM's Council, Baron Von Headbanger, and Robert Phillips. We thank you all so much. And for those of you who would like to know how to support the show, we are on Patreon, Subscribestar. You can drop us something in our tin cup by buying a coffee or PayPal if you want to do that thing. But the best thing you can do if you're just coming by is please click that subscribe button, click that bell icon for notifications. And by the way, subscribe to T-Shirted Historians channel too. I'm going to put that link up again. And absolutely. Bob, I never say your whole name. No, you're darn right. So yeah, check out T-Shirted Historian. I think YouTube does a thing now where you can just do at T-Shirted Historian, and it should take you there too. Rob C. Oculus. Yeah, okay, there you go. That's I'll do that from now on. But yeah, so thank you to those folks who support it. What other projects do you have, T-Shirted? You're working on anything? You got any stuff people can look at other than your channel right now?
Well, I just recently finished working with Grim Jim on his Whitechester campaign setting. Now, I've already been paid, so I'm not getting any extra money out of it. But if you're interested in picking it up, and I totally suggest you do, you can get it at his website, which I'm going to throw you a link here, and you can get a hard copy from Lulu from the same website. But here's the chat for it.
I don't want to brag, but it looks like you got the Dungeon Delver effect going. You've picked up a couple of subs on your channel there, T-Shirted.
I thank you. Yeah, that's great. I do appreciate it. And usually I will throw you a sub back if you threw me a sub. So I like to be nice.
Excellent.
But I love Whitechester. It's one of the things I was happy to work on, not just because Grim is my friend, but because I really believed in the project. Are you familiar with an old book called The City State of the Invincible Overlord?
Oh, CSIO? Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Imagine City State of the Invincible Overlord, except it's entirely populated by the undead, and it's being used as a prison.
I dig. That definitely sounds cool. So those of you, I put that, you know what, I should stick that right there so you guys can check that out. Whitechester, Prison City of the Damned.
Yes.
So go forth and check that out. That is a T-Shirted Historians. Dungeon Minister shows up just as we're wrapping up. Good to see you, Dungeon Minister. Thanks for stopping by. So any closing thoughts, man? Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything? Any thoughts?
Well, all the OGL and OSR licensing and everything else like that right now, a lot of people are kind of scared that that's going to impact their livelihood, that it's going to impact their fun, it's going to impact their game. As far as I know, it isn't. It may affect your game in the future as far as D&D 1 is going. Because my true belief is that Wizards of the Coast is trying to convert everything to digital, much like everything else out there is going almost completely 100% digital. And you will actually own nothing. You will own the right to play as long as you pay. And that's it.
Are you saying that we will own nothing and we will be happy?
Exactly.
Scary times, but it's going to be interesting. All right. Well, thank you everyone in the audience. Listen, I don't think I'm going to be doing a live show tomorrow. I think I'm just, I have too much running around to do last minute holiday stuff, and I'm going to decompress. So I want to thank, I want to thank you very much, T-Shirted Historian Maste.
Wait. Are you not coming to my show tomorrow?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes. What time? What time?
1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to be hosting a Dungeons and Discussions, and
Okay.
I'm calling it the Winter Gathering. And what I'm doing is I'm inviting a lot of creators, a lot of old school GMs to come hang out with me, and we're going to talk about the things that we do like about our games, about our gaming experiences. I'm going to try to kind of like, this is a festive holiday season. We're just about to have Christmas. I want to have at least one show where we embrace the positive aspects of our gaming, what we love about it, what rules we like, what systems we like, why we like them, and what they brought to us, the joy that they brought to us. I want to kind of wash the negativity away for a little bit, because we can sit here and just poop on Wizards of the Coast until the cows come home. But it's nice to reverse that trend for a bit and just talk about the good things, the things that we love and we appreciate, and show people why we like it so much, why you should play, why you should,
Right on. And that is definitely something I want to push going into the future for 2023 for this channel. Our viewers are going to see, as I mostly, like 99.999% of my content is me sitting in front of the camera and then live streaming. But there will be some pre-records coming from me that are in that very vein, because I think we need less RPG horror story and more Tales of Tabletop Triumph. So that sounds like a lot of fun. I will do my damnedest to be there. So that is 1 Central. That'll be 2 Eastern for me tomorrow. And you'll be just kind of be going on all afternoon, or what are you doing?
We'll go until, everybody wants to close it down. Normally I only run like 1 hour Dungeons and Discussions, but I suspect that with the number of folks we have, and as long as the conversation is good and everybody's enjoying, I'll run it until people want to close it down.
Excellent. All right. Well, there you've got it, folks. If you're not subscribed to T-Shirt Historian, I insist that you do. And again, I want to thank you very much for stopping by. Oh, look, 579 subs for you.
Hey, all right.
There you go, brother. We'll get you over 1,000 sooner than you know. So until then, everyone, please, if you're traveling, if you're heading out tomorrow, you're heading out tonight, you got to drive, you got a train ride, a bus ride, whatever, please be safe. Happy holidays to you. Again, namaste. Thank you to T-Shirted Historian. You guys have a lovely evening, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.